We celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve, actually, at my grandmother's house, and we would gather around the tree in her den, and right when the moment to really be in the moment was at its peak, right when everyone was opening presents and thanking each other and being sweet, I would steal off by myself down the hall to the back bedroom. It was the furthest point you could be from your family and still be inside their house. And I would get under the bed like a little gremlin, and I would just listen to the voices of my family wafting down the hall as they were thanking each other and laughing and whatnot. Now, this is the least weird thing that a pretty weird kid did, so I never really analyzed it, because there was a whole lot of stuff to get through before I got to that, so it just never happened. And then, you know, time goes by, and so then I'm 13. And I've got a new way of dodging the Christmas spirit. And now, when you're 13, anytime anyone asks anything of you, especially your parents, it's just an automatic reason to be pissy. So, also coinciding with this at 13, half of my family's in Texas, and they started coming out to San Diego to spend it with us. And they're the kind of Texans who really aren't trying to change anyone's mind about Texas. You know, they're huge, and their vegetables are cooked in bacon, and they'll vote for a serial killer as long as he's Republican, and they want to make sure you know it, and then they'll steal money and then find Jesus if they're caught. That kind of Texan. So putting them to San Diego with my family here, it just turned the holidays into Hudnall-style crossfire, where they would just yell at each other from the beginning to the bitter end. And already being indignant at 13, I decided I was going to protest, and I stood up and I walked out of the house, and I walked all the way home, right out of the moment, right before the presents got opened, because I was convinced that this would shock them out of it into being a loving family, and they would call me back. And then after 5 hours went by and no call came, I kind of defeatedly trickled my way back in just to catch the tail end of the fight that had never stopped and collect my booty for the year, and, you know, that was it, defeated. And then time goes on, the toys turn into sweaters, I moved away for college, family starts slowly dying off, and as they're wont to do, and I find excuses to avoid the Christmas season in my 20s. I start working over the holidays or spending it with my friends on the East Coast, just dodging it entirely. And then about 2 years ago, I moved back home. And it's just my mom and I now in San Diego. And we just can't muster it to save our lives. We've just been sitting around this year, smoking and staring at the boxes of ornaments that we can't really bring ourselves to open up. And we come up with conspiracy theories about how the Christians are trying to make us so sad that we kill ourselves. And if you think about it, there's some logic to this, because, you know, they lure you in when you're young and stupid and don't know better with like a raccoon with shiny objects and bright lights. And then it's only later that you realize you've been celebrating the birth of a child that's inevitably going to get nailed to a cross, which is really depressing, especially if you're like me and you don't believe that he got up and danced around afterwards. You know, it's a kind of a bummer holiday. And I've been thinking about this conversation I've had with my mom this week, and I'm wondering, well, maybe that's what the whole thing was. Maybe, you know, this joyous bill of goods I was sold as a child never really was supposed to be. Maybe it's about being forced against your will into celebrating something that you're inevitably not going to be able to for much longer. And if that's the case, if this cycle, you know, perpetuates, then maybe when I finally have my little, you know, spawnling, and it's too naive to know better and see the inevitable depression that life will bring it'll bring the joy of Christmas back into my family, into my life. And if that's true, and I see the little shit running off down the hall to be by himself and have a little moment, I'm gonna go after him and drag him back by his neck, because now I'm old enough to know better that he'll thank me when he grows up. Thank you all, happy holidays, thanks for coming out.